Let's see. Are we live?
Good to go.
We are live. Here we go.
All right. So
So,
I'm really excited to talk about this. I've been waiting to talk about it with somebody else that like is actually critically of movies since I saw it, because I saw it with Carlos, and Carlos is not the most in-depth critiquer.
yeah, in-depth
Um,
critiquer. Is
yeah,
that yeah?
he's very like I liked it, I didn't like it, you know.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Isn't it
and
crazy that
so
people live in this like binary world, man? But hey, that's
yeah,
how computers function. So,
and then I feel like I can only get his points out of him, like specifically if like I bring them up. You
yeah,
know, I have to like bring it up, and he'd be like, "Yeah, I felt that way," or like whatever. So, um, anyways, so as
what did you
someone
think of the
like,
movie? Yeah,
well, I
maybe
want
I
I
should
want to
go
get your
first
opinion first
because
because you
yeah,
haven't read the book.
yeah, I haven't
So
read the book, so I really enjoyed this movie. Actually, I thought it was super cool. Um, I was worried because it's the director of he did Blade Runner
Revenant or
2049,
something. Oh,
and I think that that's a really cool looking movie. Like visually, it's stunning, but the story of that movie is not good. But
okay.
this one, like I thought it was really cool, and I think the pace like makes sense because it says part one at the beginning, so you know it's not going to be
The whole
a
story.
complete story. Yeah, so that said, uh, there were I can't even remember like some of the criticisms that I had about it because it was for one thing it was really long. It was like two. It's like 2 hours
It's
thirty
2 hours
five.
and 27 minutes.
27. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there were some parts where I'm like, okay, the pace is starting to drag here, but every time I felt that way, like then something would happen. So like, I was pretty satisfied with it. I
Okay.
was a little confused at the beginning as to what was going on, especially like, okay, so they're fighting with their shields on. I'm like, what is going on? Because it looks weird, but like, you
Yeah.
kind of get how the shields work, and they show you kind of how it works, like how it goes slowly, and it like penetrates the shield.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought, yeah, by the middle of the movie, I knew what the plot was, and there's not a lot of explanation, and this is kind of in the book too, right? There's not a lot of explanation on like who the emperor is and what's going on with that, but I'm sure that that's also going to be left for future movies. So
Yeah, the emperor isn't like really, really important. You just know that like the emperor is the person that like makes everything like legal or illegal, and you
uh,
also know that he is the one that like controls the Sardaukar, and so like their involvement on like the behalf of the Harkonnens is like telling of his like like he's not being like neutral how he should, right? Because like he allows himself to like he allows them to like use their soldiers in their invasion.
right.
Because like that's like one of the things is like the Harkonnen army is like not as good as the Atreides army, and so they use like, and this is like one thing that like I was a little bit bothered about in like one of the scenes is like in the books they mentioned that like of all the money that they made in the 80 years that they had the planet, they spent like 90% of that money to bribe the emperor in order to like use his army to like invade and kill the Atreides. So I was sad that they didn't include that detail, because like I feel like it really like it really puts into perspective like how much they're sacrificing to like pull off this giant like um like not like mutiny, but
It's like
betrayal of
surprise
like one of the
attack.
other
Yeah,
great houses, yeah,
yeah,
and try and like extinguish them. It came at like huge cost to them. So, and is also supposed to exemplify like the Sardaukar are supposed to be like known as this like it's they're the Emperor's army, so they're like elite. They're like they're like S plus tier soldiers basically.
yeah.
And so that's supposed to also exemplify like how much like recruiting only like 3 battalions of them cost. Uh, so I was a little disappointed that the movie didn't like hit on that as much. But yeah, that's essentially like other than that, the Emperor is like doesn't really like take too much point in the story. He's kind of just, you just know that he's there and he's like the figurehead, and like everything has to like go through him, and so the houses have to act in in very certain ways. Like like everything that the houses do is very like deliberate in that it will, everything is like moving your station forward and like trying to gain ground over the other houses and stuff like that. So there's constantly like political maneuvers being made.
Yeah, can you move your microphone further away from your mouth? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, yeah. Okay. So there's a part where the dad was like talking about politics. I'm like, oh god, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see like a fucking political shit. So they were kind of light on that. I mean, it
Yeah,
was
that's like the
kind of
whole book.
simple. It was easy to follow because you're just like, okay, well, there's the Mad Max dudes, and then there's the like the white. They're like pale. They're like pale Mad Max Hellraiser guys, right?
Yeah, the
Those are the
Harkonnens,
Harkonnen, and then the other guys, and those are the good
the
guys, I
Atreides.
guess, the
Yeah.
Atreides. So yeah, it was pretty easy to follow, which I'm happy about because I know there's like a lot of complexity in the book, but I'm not really interested in watching a movie that's that complex. So I think that the one of my favorite scenes in the movie was, and here's a spoiler alert. So one of my favorite scenes in the movie was when the father gets killed,
Hmm.
and then the Paul and his mom are in the tent, and he
Yeah.
finds the ring at the moment that the dad like bites the poison tooth and like tries to kill the Baron. I thought that was like the way that they showed it and it happened at the same time. Like I thought that was really good,
Hmm.
really well done. And yeah, it sucks, man. All their shit got blown up, and that's rough. So they're, I don't know, like what happens with Josh Brolin? Is he gonna come back? He's probably gonna come back because we didn't see him die.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Yeah, he doesn't. You don't really get a resolution for him. I think the last time we see him, he's like just looking at all this shit getting blown up. Um,
Yeah.
in the movie, and yeah, I thought it was cool how he meets like the Sand People or whatever, the
Like Freeman.
Freeman. That's it, the Freeman, and then they're like, you can be one of us, and then he like fights that guy and kills him, and he decides to he chooses to stay on the planet instead of leaving because he knows what his like father's mission was
Hmm.
or what his goal was being on that planet in the first place. So yeah, I thought okay, so the production value was insane. It was incredible, and
Yeah, it looks very good.
the costumes are really great. Everything looks so real. I love the way that the ships and stuff were designed. I like the helicopter things that look like dragonflies.
The Thopters, yeah, they were cool.
Yeah, that shit was way fucking cool. And there's this one scene where the dad is flying one of them, and then he like turns off the wings or whatever, and they do this like
Yeah, the
dive
attack
with it.
bomb.
That shit
Yeah,
was way cool. So
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of cool shit in this movie, man. I really liked it. I liked it a lot.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah. I don't know. See, again, like I didn't really read the book. I remember like some of the scenes. So I
yeah,
yeah,
they're like
and
600 pages or something.
yeah, there was another thing that like I never knew what they were talking about when they're talking about the voice and all that shit. And then like when they showed it in the movie, like we're like, whoa, it kind of makes sense that it's like such a powerful like power to like
Yeah.
use the voice to like command things. I don't know. I thought it was really cool. Yeah, I thought it did a good job of like showing those things visually to help me, understand what they were talking about in the book. Does it get me excited to like go back and read the book? I don't No, I don't think so. But that's more like a me thing, right? I just don't want to read the
Yeah.
book. I don't like reading that much. Reading's okay, but I also don't have that much time for it. So overall, like having nothing to compare it to and looking at it just as a movie, I think it was really great. I'm also worried because I feel like I like science fiction stuff like this, but I don't think a lot of people do. So I don't know if they're gonna continue making this
I feel like there's been a couple
series.
things that have come out in the past couple of days that like pretty much guaranteed the sequel.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
haven't been keeping up with the news on that. Why did
Uh,
like someone say they're not gonna make a sequel and then Alec Baldwin like killed him?
yeah, that's what. Yeah. No, they were just like like all the way like leading up to the movie. It was like very. They weren't really committing to whether or not they were going to make a sequel, and it was like because like they feel like this is like risky property and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely
But it
is.
seemed yeah, but like like these past like 2 days, I feel like on like Wednesday and Thursday, like as the movie's like getting ready to come out, like there were a lot of like headlines I was seeing about like the HBO people and like the people at Warner Brothers like talking about like Dune 2, like and Dune 2 was just like coming up all over the place, like in certain feeds and on like Reddit and shit. I wasn't like really reading it because it's like I don't give a shit. Like it'll happen or it won't happen. But yeah, it seems like from the buzz that I was seeing, like it seems like a sequel's like pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, this is also a property that I think would have benefited being like a mini series.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah, because I was getting antsy sitting
I'm,
in the seat for like 2.5 hours. Like,
oh my
I wish
god,
that this
right?
was like an hour episode, and then I can
You're
like.
not gonna like my critique of this movie at
Do you
all.
think you hope it was longer? You wish it was longer? Is that
so
what you're saying?
so yeah, so like I was actually like pretty disappointed by this.
Wow.
Uh, I I felt like they did like it's visually very good. I don't know like
It's
I don't know
breathtaking.
how
It's
much.
incredible.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't know how much of the cinematography I like love, but I did appreciate like all the shots that have like spaceships and stuff in them. Like I like the scale that I got from this movie. It was like really cool to see like big ships on the ground. I feel like that's not something like we see in like Star Wars too much. I feel like whenever they have like the armies out, they're always like in front of like a base or in front of like or the you only see the big carrier ships like in space, but like there were a lot of wide shots with like armies like lined up in front of like giant carrier ships and stuff like that. And I thought that was really cool. It gave some
Yeah.
like really good scope to it, and I was glad that they like were able to convey like the size and like ferociousness of the sandworms
Oh
because
yeah,
they're
those were
supposed to
scary.
be
Yeah.
fucking enormous, and like
Yeah.
it looked really good when it was like devouring like the scrounger or whatever. And um so yeah, I wish, yeah, I think it should have been 3 hours. I really am sad that they like I think it's so I think the pace of this movie is like relentless, and I think that that's like a problem with it for me at least. I just feel like there's no meat on this movie. Like it's so preoccupied with like getting from the beginning of it where it's the beginning of the book to like wherever it's gonna end. It's so preoccupied with like getting in these beats, and so like a lot of the scenes are like missing like all the good shit that you like get in the book, and like the the Gom Jabbar scene, for example, like isn't about the Gom Jabbar. Like it's something that's like happening,
Okay,
yeah,
what
but
is
it's
that?
like that's the needle, like where she's got the needle to his neck
Oh,
and
he
his
puts his
hands in
hand
the
in the
box.
box. Yeah, just say hand in
Yeah,
the box
that's
scene. Because they
okay.
didn't
Yeah,
say the word Gom Jabbar in the
yes,
movie.
they did.
They
Yes, they
did?
did. Yes, they did.
Well,
Yeah,
it was maybe it was the
it was
mom
the
that
first
whispered
thing
it.
that she. It was like the second thing she said to him. Like she
Okay,
puts
well, it
the
was
needle
hard
to
to
his
hear,
neck.
so.
Yeah, I that's another problem with this movie is like the dialogue is like very
Yes.
discernible in a lot of parts,
Some
and
of
there's
it, yeah.
times where characters are whispering and they're whispering crazy shit, sci-fi words,
Yeah.
and the music's super loud, so you can't hear it at all. So you're just like the Gom Jabbar scene is the hand in the box scene is the perfect example of that, because while Paul is going through that trial, it keeps cutting to his mom, and she's whispering, something that's in the book that's like really cool.
Yeah,
It's
isn't
about
that
like
like some of the
fear.
first lines in the book? Fear is the
Yeah, it's
mind
about like
killer.
fear. Yeah,
Yeah.
fear is the mind killer, and you can't understand anything that she's saying. And like, I don't know that shit by heart. I know that like I could hear her say, "Fear is the enemy" at the beginning, so I knew like the shit that she was saying. But I'm like, I don't know the lyrics or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know the
So
words to
I
it.
have
Yeah.
no idea what she's saying. So I kind of wish, like in that scene, it's like, dude, if you're gonna do it like that, like make her speak like Bene Gesserit and give us like subtitles or something. Because like it's not, eh, it's like not enjoyable, and so I feel like that was like frustrating to me. I was like, well, like I'm like. I'm like, dude, I even know what the fuck she's saying, and I don't know what she's saying. So I'm like I was like thinking of it from like, if I just seen this as like a movie, I'd be like, oh man, this would be a rough start to this. Like, I'd feel like, ugh.
I
But
didn't
yeah, a lot of
understand.
this,
Okay, there's a scene when the mom like talks to one of the servants or whatever, and she's like,
and
"I
she
know you
gives her
have
the
like a
knife.
sword." Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
is that because it's like a prophecy that someone has to give the knife to the guy? Is that why she does that?
So, so my understanding of it is that like the Bene Gesserit, they're like manipulating all the events of everything, and so they have like gone to Arrakis already and like planted the religion, that prophesizes of like not specifically Paul. It happens to be Paul, but like, the like one will show up like
Yeah.
with his mother and like stuff like that. So these people are all conditioned to thinking that like this is true, and so like they're inclined to like live through those moments regardless of not of if it means anything. Like I don't remember if it's important that um she gets that knife. To my remembering, she hasn't used it yet in any like meaningful way, but like maybe I'm just stupid and don't remember. Um,
No, she doesn't. It doesn't like get mentioned later.
yeah, and like even in the parts like that are slightly further than like, because I'm only slightly ahead of like where the movie ended.
Okay.
Um, so I'm not even like I haven't really read the whole thing, but like, because like I thought they were gonna do the first two books, and they did like the first book, and then like I want to say like 90% of the second book. So I was like, I was that was another thing too. Like when the movie ended, like I still thought it had like 30 minutes left. Like I thought like I said, I thought the pace was like relentless. I could not tell. I was seriously like, I've only been here for 2 hours. Like there's still like 30 minutes left, and then it ended. I was like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, what a place to end. Like,
Well, I mean,
especially if you
it
could have
hit all
just
the
gone.
beats that the story would have. Like the first movie is about like the Mad Max guys attacking the good guys and killing the dad, and the those guy, the main guy Paul and his mom escaping.
Yeah, but there's like one or two more chapters like uh after what happens with the guy where he kills the guy, and
Uh,
like one of them is a chapter from like the Baron's perspective that like would be much better for the sequel. It would be much better to like open the sequel with that scene. So I'm like, yeah, you could easily cut that, and then you would just do the next scene, and then you would have done both books, the first and the second one, instead of like having like a little bit of one left over. And the reason for that is because once the third book starts, there's a 2 year gap, and so it's like, well, like if you do a part two, you're gonna have to like cover the part that you left off, and then you're gonna have to forward the movie 2 years later, rather than
yeah.
just like starting it there. So I was expecting there to be more movie, and like I said, I didn't feel like I had even been there that long. I felt like
We
we
got a
like,
scene where the Baron is like recovering and he's telling them what to do.
yeah,
And he
yeah.
sends the Mad Max guys after the Freeman.
Yeah, no, there's the scene that's not the scene that they would have like cut or whatever.
Oh,
There's like a scene with like a pit fight, because he's like crazy royalty, and he's like throwing this like fucking thing. Um,
What does
and
that
it
tell
sets up
you?
like
Like,
it like sets up another character that's going to be important. It's going to be like the person that he like replaces the Duke with,
oh, okay.
um, to rule Arrakis like in his stead or whatever. But like it makes sense that you could like open up on that scene to like introduce the character, and then you could do the 2 year jump forward, and it would like make sense because you'd know now that like okay, this is the guy that he put in charge, and like Arrakis has been under his rule for at least 2 years, which is probably living hell because those guys are all like one level down from like Cenobites basically.
Yeah, they are. They're
Um,
basically Cenobites. Yeah.
okay, so yeah, so like my biggest kind of critique of like why I feel this way is like I just didn't feel like any of the characters were like really well developed. I'm like every scene I was like I know like all the stuff, so I'm like I get it. But it feels like we're only touching on everyone's like motivations and relationships with each other very like cursorily. I also feel like the dialogue in the movie was like really weak considering like how much good dialogue is in the book. There's so many good like sayings in the book that are very like philosophical, and there's a lot of stuff about like fighting and like warfare. It's all really fucking cool, and we just like none of that's in the movie. It's really disappointing. Um, and yeah, I just felt like it was just trying to like get the little beats in like as much as it could, and just kind of like okay, we did that part, that's important. But like it just felt like because they were constrained by like because I'm sure the studio, it's Warner Brothers, right? And so like I'm sure they're like, yeah, like it can't be more than like 2.5 hours. For like reasons, which is like it's so dumb. It's like this movie would like really benefit, in my opinion, from just like embracing like a Lord of the Rings runtime and just doing it like because this is like it's a giant book. It's a huge like sci-fi epic. It's like you're gonna need to like
Well, it
that was like
is
the
kind of like the
disappointing
same
thing is I
runtime
felt
as the Lord of the Rings movie.
no Lord of the Rings is I checked the Fellowship. The Fellowship is 3 hours and 20 minutes.
3 hours and 20 minutes.
Yes, three
Wow.
hours and 20 minutes.
The
Yeah, all the
original,
Lord of the
the
Rings movies.
theatrical version.
I don't know. I just looked it on F movies. I don't know which one that is.
Yeah, 'cause I think the theatrical version is shorter than that. I don't think it's.
Hold on. Theatrical runtime is 178,
178.
which is like
It's over
what, 2 minutes
3 hours.
less than three
Yeah.
hours?
No, that's like over 3 hours, right?
Isn't 3 hours 180?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So it's almost 3 hours.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, almost 3 hours. And like that's what I was thinking. Like yeah, this movie would have really benefited from like an extra 40 minutes.
Oh
I
my
felt like
god.
because I just felt like
Oh
all
my
the beginning
god.
scenes were like yeah, I just felt
Can't
like all
do.
well that's the thing is like there's
Give
a
me an
lot of interesting.
intermission. Holding
I
in
mean
my
I'm
piss after an hour of the movie, and then you can say this shit should be like 5 hours fucking longer, and fuck you.
uh well the thing is too, right? It's like I feel like there's enough stuff that it would be like cool to hear the characters like actually talking to each other about the things, because that's the other thing too in the book is like the dialogue is like pretty well constructed. Characters don't usually just stop and like tell each other things just for your benefit of the audience like knowing it. They usually have like a pretty good reason that they're like talking about it, or like the topics come up and stuff like that. And yeah, I was really expecting this like movie to like succeed in like the world building, and it just feels like it really prioritized more of like the visual, like justifying the budget and maybe the actors and stuff. I don't know. In terms of like, it's hard to say because like they didn't necessarily like cut, like they kept like almost every major event, I'm pretty sure. There's like a few that they cut that like I don't mind. Like there's like one part when like Paul and his mom are like walking through the desert, and he like slides down this like slope too quick, and he like creates like a sand avalanche, and then they get like buried, and that's a whole fucking ordeal. And then they like get out, but then they lose their like pack which has all their shit in it. that they need to like survive in the desert, and then they have to like puzzle that out and stuff. So like that got cut obviously, and like I don't mind shit like that because it's like
Yeah.
I was thinking about that when I was reading it. I was like, I don't even know if this would be like the most interesting scene. So I wonder how they'll do it in the movie. And then it wasn't in the movie, and I was like, good choice.
Yeah.
So there were definitely like some things that they cut that I thought were fine. But like there wasn't any beginning scenes with the doctor to like let you know that he was the traitor. It's like there's a lot of there's like one chapter that's like his in the beginning of the novel that like you learn like all his, and like yeah, I was thinking about this too, like as I was like reading the book, like the further and further I got into it, I kept thinking like, man, would you want to adapt this movie? And I was like, fuck no. This seems like it would be so hard to adapt.
Yeah.
God damn, I'm like, the guy that's doing this like has quite a fucking challenge ahead of him. This seems like it would be so difficult. And I don't even think he did a bad job. Like I really just feel like he didn't have enough time, and so he had to. Like I'm thinking that there's gonna be like a director's cut of this. Um, I also given the fact that it's like Warner Brothers or whatever. Like they're the ones that did the Snyder cut, so like they know that they can like double dip on shit now. So like I'm kind of expecting there to be like a longer like director's cut that like comes out when it like releases on video, or I don't know what, however they decide to do that.
Yeah, there probably will be. I think okay,
'Cause,
so
like,
I think Timothy
it felt really
Chalamet
tight though.
is like he was good in some scenes, and then there were a couple of times when it was just dialogue. And he seemed kind of stiff, and I was like, I don't know, is this
Yeah.
guy a really good actor, or is that just the character that he plays? You know?
I kind of felt that as well. Like honestly, like I didn't think any of the characters in this movie were fun. Like all of them are like somber, and they're all like very mysterious and like unrelatable.
So there's
And
supposed to be fun characters in this story.
yes, like Gurney Halleck, Josh Brolin's character, like plays the guitar, and he like plays it a lot in the book. And I was actually like really surprised they didn't give him one song. I actually thought that would have been cool. I was like, oh, that's really interesting that they got Josh Brolin to play the singing guy, because that's something that like we've seen Josh Brolin do a lot of stuff with acting, but I haven't seen him like sing very much. So I'm like, that'll be really cool. And they didn't do it at all. And I was like, what the fuck, man? It's like a huge part of his character. And then like a lot of like wisdom and stuff like that he has like comes from song. That's why a lot of the things that he like says are very like poetic or whatever. Because he's always like reciting like songs that he knows, like the lyrics from them, because he like understands the deeper meanings and stuff like that. And it's like one of the things that like makes him like kind of a cool soldier. And he like always brings he plays a ballast set. Like always brings it with him. And like the Duke usually has him play it like during like that meeting that they had like around the table. And he, because like that scene also in the book is like way more chaotic. Like they do like a way more extensive report about what's happening on the field, and the men are all like really terrified of like allying with the Freemen. And he has Gurney like play a song to kind of like calm everyone's nerves, and he tries to like reset kind of like the tension in the room. And like that was another thing. This is what I mean is like, man, there's so many cool things about these characters that are like that scene like exemplifies that like the Duke like knows how to lead, and he knows like how to get the best out of his men. And like there's like another part, like the whole reason that he saves the people on the spice thing is like he's known for being like one of those leaders that like will be on the front lines with you, and that like sticks his neck out for like every man. And like he needs like word of that to start circulating through Arrakis, because like he's gonna try and like win over the Freemen, right? So he needs them to hear that he's like a different kind of ruler than the Harkonnens. And just like little thing like they didn't make it specifically, like I mean I know it just seems like general like good guy thing when he does it in the movie, but like in the book there is a little bit of like they do like deliberate on like weighing out like, is it worth losing this giant spice carrier and all the spice and shit like that, and sacrificing those guys in order to get it, or is it better to like save the crew? And they actually like postulate about it a little bit. And it's just like all that stuff is just kind of missing, and it just like I said, it just feels like they're just trying to get through every scene with like as minimal amount of like the big like meat and potatoes of the scene. It's like, oh, the thumper, not the thumper, the fucking scrounger that's like they're going to inspect that gets eaten by the sandworm. Like that's all we need, and the king saves the guys. It's like that's all we need in the scene, and it's like, well, no, because like also the thing that like attaches to the stump to the scrounger, that like with the big, the big like hooks came down and one of them broke, and then it was like, oh, we can't do it, so now we got to go rescue them.
Yeah.
That thing doesn't even come back in the book. Like it got infiltrated by like a Harkonnen spy, and they like purposely like because they're like sabotaging the like spice harvesting and stuff like that. And
Well,
so
I
it
mean, they
shows that
kind
like
of
there's
alluded to
still
that in the movie.
no, they just say that it broke because the thing's old. They're like
Well, that's what
really
the lady said, but the dad was like, "No, I think they're sabotaging us."
um I don't remember. Uh but so and yeah, anyway, like that's what I mean is like that's a part that's like uh is yeah, and I was like thinking about that in the movie. I was like, is it smarter to have just kept the thing in and then just have it break and then just have that be I was like, I can see, there's like some things you can like change for screen and it doesn't like change things a ton. And I was like, okay, I guess it's fine for the most part. I think it's kind of important because it leads to like other things later, but it's like you're not having those scenes either. Like there are scenes where the Duke is like by himself with like it's him and then Thulfur Hawa, who's like the old guy with the umbrella. Uh
Yeah.
and then Josh Brolin and they're like talking about, like everything that's going on and what they're doing to like suss out the traitor and stuff like that, because like that's another thing is like that they made really little commotion about the assassination attempt on like Paul's life. I felt like they kind of glossed over that like very quickly. They're like, oh, we found this guy in
They
the
kind of
walls.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we found this guy in the walls, and he's like, I should resign because like I failed you, and he's like, they tried to kill my son. Shut the fuck up and like go find who did this. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, it's like a much bigger issue than that in the book because it shows right away that like they're not going to be safe from this. Like the Harkonnen threat is like always going to be there, and that they've had people in their ranks because they sent them there early in order to like prepare the palace or whatever, and that should have been something that they caught. So they know that there's like someone among their ranks that is like communicating with the Harkonnens and like giving them an in and all this stuff. And it's just like, man, yeah, I just felt like every scene, like the fucking meat was there, but like all the potatoes were just missing and all that like little stuff that like sets up the like political intrigue. And then I also thought we got no good scenes with the Baron really. Like he's a much more like menacing, like calculating character, but like this he was just like fat and vaguely evil guy and like gross man.
We
He was
kind of
just
got a
gross
sense of
guy.
that when he talked to the lady that was wearing black, and then she left, and then he's like, "Okay, we're gonna kill all those people."
Yeah, a little bit, but like he's got like he's like really working around. He's like capable of working all the pieces on the chessboard, if you know what I mean. Like rather than just like, you know, I man the horse and only I man the horse, and I'm really good at manning the. No, he's like he's like a fucking schemer. He's got like a lot of shit going on. He's got his fingers in a lot of stews, and this they just made him seem like very like simplistic and just like gross, which is fine because he's like gross in the book, and I actually like the interpretation of him. I thought the way that they made him float and shit was a little weird. He does wear these things called like suspender something or others, and I always just got the impression that they were like these discs that he put on his body that like made his fat folds like weightless so that he didn't get like tired all the time because he's like a gross fucking guy in the book, right? And he's like always tired and he's always eating, and but he's very like he's like he like splurges on like all the luxury shit. So he's got like these fucking clothes that like make it so he doesn't feel so fat. So I thought like his portrayal and stuff like that was good, but I didn't think that they made him like cunning or uh he just seemed like gross evil guy, covered in black stuff. Oh, I'm naked in the fog.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm like, I like float really high into the air. Ooh, booga booga booga. And it's like, Jesus. um and they also completely cut out like mentats in the whole story. Like the guy with the umbrella, the old man with the beard, and his eyes go white. Like he's a mentat, which is like a
It's
crazy
like a
like
computer bug,
assassin.
right? Oh, assassin? Yeah, they didn't talk about any
Yeah,
of that. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, and they like they reveal in the book that like they've been training Paul to be a mentat like his whole life, and it's actually like really important. And it's like one of the reasons that like Paul is so good at like he's just been trained like since he was born. This is like makes him the one. He's been getting like Mentat and Bene Gesserit training since he was born. So he's like he's like a crazy fucking combination of like all the best abilities in like the universe. Plus he is the Kwisatz Haderach whatever thing. So he has like the ability to like see the future and shit. So he's like pretty insane. Uh, and I thought that that was weird that they cut the Mentat part out, and didn't like use that at all. Especially given the fact there's two Mentats in the movie. The Emperor's Mentat is like the skinny guy. Pretty sure he played Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad. I'm pretty sure it's that guy.
No, I think it's the guy that played. Do you remember the guy from Silicon Valley?
Yeah,
The tall, thin guy. He was in The Office as well.
it's that guy.
Yeah, it's the guy. You know that guy, right? You know what I'm talking about? He's like the
Kinda.
friend. He comes on in like later season, right? He doesn't. He's not in the beginning of the show, but he's like an accountant kind of guy.
Jared.
I think that's his name. I don't know. I don't remember what his
Okay.
name was, but yeah,
Either way, yeah, he's
yeah,
also a
that's the
Mentat,
guy.
and like,
Oh, he dies right
like
in
yeah, he does die. He dies
the
in the
poison
poison
thing.
scene, but
Yeah.
it's like a huge loss to the Baron. It's like a huge problem for him because
Well, I
he
mean,
had
they
like
don't really see any of the aftermath of that because
I
the
know,
last time we
yeah,
see it is like,
yeah. They're
oh,
just like, oh, he's in a healing tank,
yeah, he comes out of the healing tank, but yeah,
and he's like, "Bruh, bruh, bruh, bruh," and then he just fucking goes back in
yeah,
there. It's
fucking
like-
Marlon Brando, Apocalypse Now shit.
yeah, uh, yeah. So yeah, I've been thinking it's like I don't know. I feel like this movie is very like technically well done. It's very modern. It looks really good. The actors in it are all good and they all do fine with what they're given, to be honest. I actually think Jessica Ferguson, is that her name?
Rebecca Ferguson,
Rebecca Ferguson.
yeah,
She's great in
she's great
this.
in everything.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and she does a lot of really good like visual acting, like emotive stuff that is really great, but I kind of feel like a lot of the meaning is like kind of lost because they don't really spend a lot of time with any of the characters. Because like she has a lot of like weird conflicting shit going on with her
uh-huh.
and Paul, and like they made their I felt like they made the relationship in this like seem like pretty simple, but it's like really complicated. Because she's Bene Gesserit and like she wasn't supposed to give birth to him, and like he's becoming this fucking crazy ass thing, and she's like having trouble like dealing with that, and she's like like that scene in the tent with her and him when they like find out that the father dies is like when he has like a huge awakening where he really like starts to gain control over like his prescient power, like where he can kind of like he can see like the future and like some of the events that like are required to like get there, but then there are like certain in betweens that he like can't see. And so there's like a certain future that involves like a war. Hold on, my mom's calling me.
Uh, yeah, it did seem like also. Well, I mean, they said that like it whatever vision he has doesn't necessarily come true. So they kind of set that up in the
Sure.
movie.
I'll take a look.
They also didn't seem like they mentioned a problem with water, but it didn't become like a
Okay.
big deal. Maybe it will in the next book, as the Freemen probably are
Okay.
more concerned with like water as a resource and
All right.
like the scarcity of it. But it seems like the
No.
other factions in the movie weren't as concerned with the lack or scarcity of water. So I don't know if that was a
I
major
don't know if
thing
you're
in the
talking to
book.
me or are you talking to me or are you just
No, I'm
talking
just
out loud?
talking. Yeah. So like in the
Okay.
book, is the scarcity of water like a major
It's a huge thing, and I
deal?
feel like they really glossed over that in the
Yeah, that
movie
didn't
as
seem like a
well.
big deal in the movie.
I know. And also, I was going to say, like, I didn't really feel like they did a good job of making Arrakis seem like a harsh place. I didn't feel like anyone looked hot in this movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
nobody was like really
and
sweating or
no
anything.
one was ever really like sweating, like, even when they didn't have the still suits on and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And, yeah, man, I'm like, God, man, that like this movie like just doesn't have the girth that it like needed to really
Yeah.
like drive home like I feel like a lot of things.
Yeah, I think
Like
it would have been better served as like a maybe like a 10 episode kind of
I was
series.
I was definitely thinking the same thing. As I was like once it ended, I was like, man, they really should have like done this as like a show. Like I
Yeah.
think that it would be better if it was just 3 hours instead. But like I think that a proper treatment would have been like a series.
Yeah.
I think that that's how you could have gotten like the best out of it.
Yeah, but I
Um,
can't imagine this kind of production value going into a show. I don't know.
I mean, they do it for Marvel, but yeah, definitely not
Even
something that's like
Marvel, it's like
unknown.
they're still. I mean, yeah,
They're
no,
doing like
because like,
20 million an episode or whatever for like shit like
do they
Falcon and the
really spend that
Soldier.
much?
Yeah, it's like 10 to 20 million an episode for like
Wow.
shows like that.
But even
Like
so, I'm sure they're writing like stories where it's like, okay, it has to be like a smaller scale because we can't like CGI that much stuff into it. Like we can't put a fucking Infinity War in a show, because
yeah,
it's too much for the budget. So yeah,
yeah.
so I don't see
Um,
that. And then like I don't know, it's like how many people would have to subscribe to HBO Max in order to make that profitable?
yeah, who knows?
Yeah,
But yeah, in terms of like the big like major story beats and stuff like that, as far as like you said, like bringing someone new into it and like kind of conveying like most of the story beats and like getting us to like where we were, like most of it is like really faithful to the books. It's very, you get all that stuff. It just feels like a lot of like the cursory stuff
yeah,
uh like was just kind of like minimalized so that they could really get to like the big story beats. And so yeah, I was pretty like divided when I like got out of it. I was like, oh man, I'm like
yeah. The other
yeah,
side of the coin with making it more show detailed, the detailed like 10 episode kind of show, is that like it's easy with science fiction to get really caught up in the details. Not just science fiction, I guess fantasy. Fantasy is probably more of it's like a genre where they like build a whole world, and you think about
yeah,
like the most minute details that are included in the book, and that's why the books are like 1,000 pages long, and then they're a series of like
yes,
15 fucking books, and
yeah.
yeah, so it's like I wouldn't want to watch a show that's like that detailed where there's so much shit going on. Like that's too much. I don't know. I can't get invested in that.
I
So
mean, you say that. Have you ever tried?
yeah, I have. Yeah, I just
Like
tried with
watching
Dune, and I just can't do it.
Oh,
But yeah, I
no,
mean,
aren't we talking about like creating it into a show and then like getting it? So sorry, you were talking about like getting invested into a book that's like really. detailed and shit.
Yeah, just anything that has that level of detail is not like really interesting to me because
It is
I
really hard to juggle it all.
yeah, it's just too
I
much
will
to keep
say
track of.
there are definitely times where I'm like reading a chapter and they'll like say a guy's name and I'm like, I don't fucking remember who that guy who
Yeah,
that fucking guy is. What's
yeah.
he doing again? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, he's dead. And I'm like, great. How did he die? What
Oh
was he
man, sucks for
doing?
that guy.
Why was he
Yeah.
important? Are we happy he died? Are we sad he died? Like, there's definitely times where I'm like that, but like there are other times where there's just like certain characters like really well, and they're like in rooms with each other, and like the dynamic between them is like really interesting, and yeah, it is kind of like hard to convey in a screenplay because like in the book you can read like both their thoughts and you like know what they're thinking and that that's what I mean like when I thought like would I want to adapt this and it's like god it would be so hard unless you constantly had like monologues like inner monologues for the characters. I feel like it's like really hard to like adapt this shit because like they're all really like intelligent and so like every single like encounter that these people like have in the books they're like carrying a conversation but they're like leading the other person but they're also at the same time like monitoring all their like tells they can tell whether they're like nervous or whether they're scared or whether they're angry or whether they're being like stubborn or whether they're being persistent of something or anything like that so they're like noticing all that and they're like noticing like all the shit in the room and all the things that have like happened before you got to this point in the book and all the potential shit and they're like it's like really cool it sounds pretty convoluted and shit like that but like it's written really well where you're like god this is really interesting if these people were like operating at this like really like heightened sense of awareness and we're like politicking each other and they're like aware of like their strengths and weaknesses and like what can be exploited and like they know when to like feint and then they know when to like strike and it's really cool and yeah I was thinking like that's gonna be like really hard to capture especially like I was assuming that the movie is gonna be like 3 hours and so I was like even with that amount of runtime it seems like it would be like hard to do this but like yeah there's a scene with like Jessica uh Rebecca Ferguson's character and then the old guy with the umbrella Thilfer Hawat there's like
Yeah.
a scene in the between them in the book which is really good because Thilfer is a mentat and so he's like going through all he's got like his own like decision tree that he goes down through his like assassination training and he also believes that Jessica is the traitor and then Jessica like knows that he believes that she's treacherous and she's like trying to like signal to him that he's not without like because like she also doesn't know whether or not he's a traitor like whether he's like in her code and so they're like the way that they interact with each other and like postulating around each other is like really cool and like that was a scene that was like cut from the movie and I'm like oh I guess so like it's not like super necessary because like they cut out the whole plot where like the Duke thinks that Jessica might be the traitor. So yeah, I don't know. It's just like yeah, it was I guess it was like sad to see like the sacrifices that got made so that they could like tell the movie up to the point that they wanted to stop. And
I think the
yeah, so
marketing was strange because I think there's only like 2 or 3 little scenes maybe in the trailer that don't have Zendaya in it. Zendaya's in most of the trailer, and she's like
yeah.
barely in the movie. So I don't know. Like, are there people going to see a movie just because Zendaya's in it? I don't know. Maybe, but just know that she's barely in this movie.
Yeah, I knew like going in.
Yeah,
I
you
was
knew
thinking that
that
was
because
weird
you
too.
read the
I was
book.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, because I was like so far into the book, and I'm like, dude, we have not met Zendaya's character yet.
yeah,
And I was like, I feel like they were billing the shit out of her in this
yeah.
movie.
She's like, yeah,
Um,
really being pushed in the marketing. So I thought that
yeah,
was weird, but
I thought that was weird as well. So yeah, um, I thought she was fine in it.
yeah, I mean, she was in like 2 scenes, so she was in one scene.
Yeah, pretty
The
much.
rest of
Yeah,
it
and
was
she did
like,
like the narrate. She did the narration in the beginning.
yeah, and then she was in like Paul's visions.
Yeah. Which I also, yeah, I was also kind of critical of like how they handled um his his dreams, because like in the book his dreams are like really clear, he just like doesn't know what they mean. And in this one I felt like they were really doing a lot of like cutting back and forth between like reality and the dream and stuff like that, and trying to make it like really obscure. And I
Yeah,
was like, oh, okay, I don't know, I didn't really like that. Because like here's the thing too, is like I like as well as like because like I don't get everything when I'm reading it, because like it's really fucking hard and complicated and shit, like you said. And like I don't read like every day, I like read with like big gaps in between, so like sometimes I forget stuff. So I was hoping to get like
I don't know
a
how
lot
you
like
read the book when you're at the gym, dude. All I can focus on is the fucking games, bro. I did not have time to read a book like a fucking nerd. I'm doing Giga Chad supersets over here.
yeah, well, um, give me a sec, because I'm trying to order this food for my mom. Oh my god, she said you wanted spicy chicken chow mein. Is that what she said? I think so. So do this.
Where are you getting it from?
Some Thai place.
Well, we can go ahead and wrap up this review. I think this is like pretty good because this is like one of the more digestible episodes. It's only like an hour. But there used to be this YouTube channel. I don't know if they're still around, but it's called Every Frame a Painting, and that's what I thought of when I was watching the movie. Because like every shot of the movie was like a painting. It was gorgeous. Uh, I would say like yeah, if you're one of those people that like watches one movie per year, like this is the movie to watch. It's so good. I can get that the science fiction is kind of it's a tough sell, and I think in general this movie would be a tough sell for general audiences because I think that the person that watches uh, one movie a year would rather be interested in some fucking bullshit biopic where Tom Hanks plays like the fucking whoever the fuck he plays like Grover Cleveland or some shit. Directed by Steven Spielberg. Like you know that fucking shitty fucking biopic they make every year about some fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's, you know, see that? I don't know.
Um. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. I just placed this order, so I'm not like distracted anymore. Yeah. I guess yeah. I mean, like I'll definitely go see the second part. Um. Yeah. I'm like not. I also thought that the movie was very like dreary. Like I thought that it was a lot of like I felt like it was very dark, not dark in like tone, but just like dark. It felt like a lot of the shots were really dark. And then
Yeah, there were a couple
um
times when it was like super dark, and then it would cut to like the sun coming out, and it was like fucking burn your fucking retinas.
yeah, and I wish that they had made the palace that they inhabited look cooler and like more. Like it was not green. It was just brown. It was all brown, and everything like looked indiscernible from like everything else. And there was
Wait,
just the
was that
one.
at the beginning before they went to the planet?
No, like on the planet. The
Well,
one that
yeah.
was
I
on
mean, I think
Caladan
that
also didn't look great, but like
I think that it makes sense that it's not really grandiose or uh, like anything like that because it's like for utility, right? They're like,
well they have like gardens and stuff on in the palace grounds, and
yeah,
they have like dew collectors and stuff that the freemen use to like, because like they have a bunch of people that are like working in the palace. And remember, they sent people ahead like 3 weeks ahead before they got there, so they're supposed to have like the palace prepped.
do they build a whole ass
um
palace in 3 weeks?
No, they didn't build the palace. They just like chose a place that was there and like made it the capital.
Okay.
And but it ends up being this like it has like a palace manse. And yeah, they send people there like 3 weeks ahead to like prepare it for them. Like that's the whole reason. That's like one of the reasons that like Duncan Idaho goes ahead. Jason Momoa, he goes ahead is because like he's like part of that like team. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on at the palace, and the palace really feels like they brought Caladan with them because they're like accustomed to like having plants and watering them and like not viewing water as this like huge commodity that everybody else. And then that makes the like palm tree scene where the guy's like watering the palms like hit that much harder because he like tells you like how
Yeah,
people on
I
the
mean,
planet view water. And I
I
feel like that was kind of
guess, but
glossed over.
that's getting to the point, like we were saying, just too much detail. It's like, oh man, that fucking scene with like the
I mean,
guy
that's where like
watering a palm tree really slapped. It's like, who fucking cares, dude? I was like, whatever. Like, I watched the scene, I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't care
sure, I mean,
about that.
but like compare that to something like in Mad Max when you see like a Morton Joe like run through the Citadel, and there's like a part where he like runs through like a whole like garden and like a sprinkler system and stuff. And like you don't have to stop and sit on the scene, but like that scene's so much better and like conveys so much about like what's going on in the world and with the movie. And like this just that's what I mean. Like this movie just felt like really light on details, and I think it needed it. Like it's fine, yeah. If you it's this adaptation of this very like dense and like purposefully written book, and this is where I think that like you're supposed to take the time to like go ham on those details and really like build this up to be like an epic series of movies that people are going to look forward to every year and that they're going to like recall on it as like this is like a defining movie of my like adulthood or whatever. Like we look back at like Lord of the Rings. This is not Lord of the Rings. Like this movie is like not that good. It's
Yeah, yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
competent. It's like very competent and it's like executed very well, but it's not this new world that we're all like super enthralled to see like the next installment and like what else hasn't been like revealed to us and like what battles are like on the horizon and all this stuff. It's very like I don't know, yeah, I felt like very like okay, I saw that when it was over and I was like, well, I guess like we'll just see how it ends. I'm going to keep reading the book so I can figure that out. Cuz like I'm sure it'll be cool there because like so far I would say that the book is definitely better.
Okay, well let's wrap it up now. My thoughts
Yeah.
on it, out of 10, I would give it like a 7 or 8 out of 10 because just as a movie, not looking compared to the book because I didn't read the book, but just as a film
Yeah,
goer, like I was really satisfied. Like I don't feel like I wasted.
that's what I would have predicted. I
Yeah.
was actually thinking like maybe we should try and predict. It would have been fun maybe to like try and predict what we thought the other would say.
Yeah, and I
Um,
predicted that you would have said it was so different from the book. But yeah,
yeah,
I really enjoyed
but
it.
if you it could be different from the book though and be good. That's the thing
Yeah, I
is like
mean,
I,
Lord of the Rings
I
is
thought
really different from the books. Yeah.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, and the movies are really good.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't really have the same. I don't have the same relationship with like Lord of the Rings, especially because like I literally like read this, like, I started rereading Dune or like started my progress onto Dune again. I think in what like July or something like that. So I was like, this is the first time I've ever like read something like so close to like the adaptation coming out.
Yeah.
So I don't have the same relationship with like Lord of the Rings and like those books. I read them like one time, but I don't fucking remember them at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think that this like suffered because of like too many like I think that like this movie's fine with the scenes that they decided to cut. I actually don't think like the cut scenes from the book were like a detriment. They're just very cool, but like I understand the process in which they probably determined like these are more or less cursory scenes. We don't really need them. I'm like okay
Yeah.
with that. It's just that like the scenes that they did give us, I feel like they just weren't as like meaty as they could have been, at least for my liking. From my like understanding of these characters and like how I wanted to see them like portrayed on screen and like the certain like scenes that I wanted to see, I was like, oh man, we didn't really get as many of those as I would have liked. But does it tell the story fine? Like of the Atreides like going to Arrakis and how they're like, you know, betrayed by the Harkonnens and like basically eliminated. Yeah, I thought that like it got through that all. I feel like
Yeah,
some
I
of the
was
things are like
glad
less
that it
meaningful,
explained
like
to
the
me
Doctor.
as a casual moviegoer. It explained everything that it needed for me to like understand what was happening in the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
But anyway,
Um, yeah.
overall, what would you give it out of 10?
I think I'm sitting at like a 5.
A 5 out of
And
10. Okay.
yeah, and I don't think I would go lower. Like I don't think that we're talking like 4 to 5. I think we're probably talking more like 5 to 6. Like I said, I don't think it's like I'm almost wondering like if maybe I would have like liked it more if I hadn't read the book before I saw it.
Probably. Almost 100%. Yeah. So here's my thing. Just don't read the book. Just watch the movie. Like I say for every movie that's an adaptation of the book. Fuck books. They take long to read and they're boring as shit. Just watch the fucking movie.
um,
uh,
yeah.
If they could make a movie out of some of my textbooks, I would be happy with that. Watch the shit out of that fucking movie, and then
Well,
give it
like
a bad review
I
on the
keep
channel.
just thinking back. I'm like, what characters in this movie are cool?
Aquaman. Okay, there was one scene that I thought was funny was when he has a vision towards the end of the movie where he's wearing the little white suit and he's doing like cartwheels and like killing a bunch of other people in like white spacesuits. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck was that scene? That was weird.
Um, yeah, that's like a future that he wants to like prevent because
Yeah.
he's like on a path to become like a warlord
Oh,
basically,
okay, that's what it
and
is. Okay.
he doesn't want that to happen, and he knows like allying with the Freemen is like part of like the future that has the war and part of the future that doesn't as well. So like he has to like become their ally, and then like everything that he does like from then is like really important because it kind of like dictates like the way that the future's gonna go.
Yeah, okay. So, well, you heard it here, folks. I'd say a 7 out of
No,
10.
hold on. I've
Well, yeah,
asked
I
a
know, but I
question.
gotta
What
go.
character?
So,
Oh,
yeah, I told you what character. Aquaman was cool, and he died.
yeah, but why is he cool?
I liked his relationship with Paul. He's like an older brother type. That's someone that Paul admires, and he's also like a just seems like a chill dude, and he's also a competent fighter
Okay,
and skilled at what he does. So,
I'll give you that. I agree with that.
yeah.
Feel like a character like that, they got like very little time. I feel like it would have been cool if we'd seen more of him.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's
Uh,
that's kind of how I feel with like all the characters. I kind of feel like you get this like surface level of like
yeah,
what they are, and then it's also really short.
yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, because like I can't. I don't know. I feel like the Duke was cool, but I feel
Yeah,
and then I
he
and
was really cool. Yeah, and I liked his relationship with Paul as well. That part where they're talking about like Paul's reluctance to be the next Duke, I thought that was a really good scene,
yeah, that was a good
well
scene.
written and acted. But yeah, I gotta go now. So,
Okay.
what do you have any final thoughts? Any brief final thoughts?
I mean, I'd still say see it. I would say that
Yeah, I
like
would say watch it. Yeah.
there's a good chance that like most people will just walk away as like that's a pretty good like competent sci-fi movie.
Yeah, like if you don't have anything to compare it to, I think that you would enjoy it. Just know that it's kind of long, but I don't. I think the pace is like good
I think
for
the pace
modern
is good.
moviegoers. Yeah,
Yeah, like I said, I thought the pace was like really fast. I didn't even think we were there for 2.5 hours.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah, good movie. Check it out. That's it. That's the end of it. Goodbye.
Let's see.